Well, good morning and welcome to SouthPoint Church. We want to say hi to both of our friends online and in person. We're so fired up that you're here today. Hey, if today happens to be your first time, whether it's in person or online, we just want to say thank you. We know that your time is valuable, that you would show up and join us today. Hey, my name is Matt. I'm part of the team here at SouthPoint. What I want to do, because we value your time, is to dive right in with a shocking truth. Like, listen, that all of us know, and it applies to each and every one of us, regardless of where we are in faith. Whether we showed up today and we're just kind of exploring, maybe we showed up and we grew up with kind of other than Jesus in our family, or maybe we went to church all of our lives. But this truth that we know, we wish it wasn't true. And so I'm going to put this truth up right on the screen as we start this morning, and it's this right here, and it's going to be the next slide. It's coming, I promise. And love will not magically make differences and disagreements go away. I got any married people in the house, right? You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Listen, love will not magically make differences and disagreements go away. Conflict is unavoidable in relationships. Listen, I know what the movies tell us, right? I know what the romance novels tell us, right? That if you're in love, that your differences and disagreements will magically go away. But if you've been married for more than 24 hours, all the married people are laughing. You know that that's a lie. Listen, if you love your kids and you're here in person or online and you love your kids, as soon as they can start talking back to you, you know that conflict is unavoidable because there are differences and disagreements. You may love your siblings, your brother or your sister, but there are differences and disagreements. There's no way, no matter how much you love them, it doesn't magically go away. With your in-laws, you may love them, they may love you, but it's not going to go away. Your aunties, your uncles, we all have experienced that love will not magically make our differences and disagreements go away. And here's the reality. Conflict is not an if question. Just nod your head. If you're online, maybe you just want to type in amen, right? Listen, conflict isn't an if question. It's a when question. And here's what we need to really take in is conflict isn't bad. It's actually normal because people have differences and there will be disagreements. Now, here's some good news, though, is listen, that every single human since the beginning of time has handled differences and disagreements all in the same way. And we all do the same thing. We want to win, right? Listen, when it comes to what we want and when it comes to our way, we all want to win. We want to win, we want to get our way, and we want people to understand our opinion. Listen, I've never met anybody that said, you know what, this opinion that I have, this idea that I like, I'm just going to let that go. And if you don't believe me, go onto Facebook and Instagram, and you'll see how right I am. Right? I mean, I've never seen anybody who goes, this is what I want, right? Like, I want this thing, and then someone says no, and they go, you know what? Because you said no, it magically went away. I don't want that anymore. Like, that never happens. And here's what I discovered. Listen, every human in every culture and every civilization does the exact same thing. All of us, regardless of where you're at in faith, want to win at what we want, and we want to win in our way. And it gets a little even scary because most of us will do whatever it takes to win at what we want and to win to get our way. But we've never stopped to ask the question, does winning to get what we want and does winning to get our way help or harm the relationships that matter most? Our family relationships. And here's the shocking truth. Matter of fact, this truth is so normal, it's so obvious that we often miss it because it's like the air that we breathe. We just don't recognize that it's there. But I want to reveal this shocking truth, and we're going to put it up on the slide. It says, creating a winner and a loser, maybe you want to type that out. Creating a winner and a loser in relationships is almost always a loss. Listen, this idea is a scientific research fact. There was a clinical psychologist. His name was Dr. Willard Harley. He wrote a book, His Needs, Her Needs, about marriage. If you never read it, it's a little bit outdated, but man, the principles in it are so good. And he had over 40 years in working in family relationships and marriage. And you know what he discovered? When you say that you love someone, but you are willing to get what you want and get your way at their expense, it never feels like love. When we create a win and a loser, it's almost always a loss. Because how can you say that you love someone and then say, what I want in my way, I'm willing to get at your expense? It dings them, and they know that that's not real love. I really wish, man, I told the first service, I said, I wish someone had taught me this principle back in elementary school, that when you create a winner and a loser, it's almost always lost. Matter of fact, my whole life, I've been really bad at this because I love to win. Anyone see, that what's the Holy Grail, Monty Python's Holy Grail? I'm the little black knight, head chopped off, and I'm like, come back, I'll bite you in the ankle. I've always wanted to win. So I've struggled with this all of my life. True story. We're in the middle of a remodeling project. Any families ever done remodeling? You either need a therapist or you need Jesus if you're doing renovation in your home with a wife and kids. So anyway, there was about a decade ago, my wife and I, we were doing some work around the house, and we got most of it done. And at the end, we had a little bit of money left in our budget, and we were trying to decide what to do with it. And so my wife's idea was, hey, why don't we refresh the bathroom? We spend a lot of time in the bathroom. We should refresh that. I had a different idea. I'm responsible for all the yard work, and I don't know who owned the house before me, but they planted like 100 bushes. They should be beaten with a stick. Oh my gosh. I'm just joking. I love them too, right? And so anyway, I have 100 bushes, and we have all these beds and all this stuff, and I go to yard work. Well, I wanted to do like landscaping rocks around it because the mulch would all come out. It was rotted wood. It looked horrible. I was like, hey, babe, I got to do the yard work every year. I got to do it. We should get this. And she's like, I want a bathroom. And you know what? When you create a winner and a loser, it's always a loss. And I'm a good talker if you haven't figured that out right. And so I kind of bullied my way. I kind of won my way into getting the landscape rock, which is now all falling apart and everyone in our family hates. And my wife was right, but I created a winner and a loser. And I dinged my wife. Because you know, and I know, and we all know, that when we say we love someone, and yet we win at their expense, it never comes across as love. And it got me thinking about this. I mean, have you, if you're here online or in person and you're married, I wonder how many times we wanted what we wanted or our way at the expense of our spouse. And we created unwanted damage. I wonder how many of us with our kids, when there was really room and space to dialogue and talk about it, that we got what we wanted or we got our way and we created damage. We created a loss in their heart. I wonder how many of us with our brothers or our sisters, when we wanted what we wanted and we wanted it our way or we wanted it this way, that we created a loser and created loss in the relationship. I wonder with our in-laws, with our auntie, our uncles, our grandparents. I wonder how many times in our relationships, because we wanted what we wanted and we wanted it our way, that we created a winner and a loser. Now, sadly, this is the default nature of all of us. We just want to win. And not only do we want to win, we're willing to win at what we want and we're willing to win at our way at the expense of people that matter most to us, our loved ones. Because the whole idea behind this sermon series, My Family Circus, there's no such thing as normal, is it's hard to win at life when you lose with your family. There's no amount of money, there's no amount of accomplishment, there's no amount of stuff that can replace an amazing relationship with your family. And it leaves all of us, regardless of where you're at with faith, asking the same question that we need answered today. And it's this question right here. How do we deal with differences and disagreements in a way that won't damage the relationships that matter most? Because conflict isn't an if question, it's a when question. We're going to have differences. We're going to have disagreements. So are we going to keep going, I'm going to do whatever it takes to win, and we're going to create unwanted damages in our marriages, with our children, with our siblings, with our extended family? Or is there a different way to deal with these differences and disagreements so that we don't create damage in the relationships that matter most? Now, this is the part where I get to tell you the good news. And here's the good news. You're not alone. Listen, if you're thinking, man, I know somebody that really needs to hear this, then you need to hear this. This isn't for them, it's for you. Right? The reality is that this applies to all of us. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, the language you speak. This is a human issue. And here's why I am a passionate follower of God, Jesus, and the Bible is that God understood that every single one of us would have to address this question. This was so important that Jesus actually gives a brand new command because of our default position to help answer the question, how do we deal with differences and disagreements so that we don't damage the relationships that matter most? And what I love about Jesus is that he makes it so clear. It's not like it's hard to find, and it's not so complicated that you have to be some spiritual guru to do it. This is something that is obvious and that anyone can do no matter their background. We're going to take a look at the eyewitness account of the Gospel of John where Jesus utters the words that move people from being a follower of Jesus, a fan of Jesus to a follower of Jesus. In John 13:34, Jesus is speaking to his disciples at the Last Supper, and he says, "But I'm giving you a new command. You must love each just as I have loved you." Do you notice that Jesus says love others? I'm giving you a new command. Now, why does Jesus need to give us a new command? Because our default normal position is to fight for what we want, is to fight for our way, and we'll do almost anything, even if it creates damage in the relationship we love. You must love each other just as I have loved you. Jesus did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom. And we all go, man, it would be great if other people did this. And see, this is why it's so hard to move from a fan to a follower, because we all want someone to treat us. Come on, you know what I'm talking about, church folk, right? Like we all want someone to treat us the way that Jesus would, right? We just don't know if that's something that we want to do. And that's the difference between a fan and a follower of Jesus. Now, Jesus gives this new command because it moves us from our default position about winning our wants and our ways to winning at the relationship. And matter of fact, is Jesus gave us this new command. God wants to make sure that you and I know how this actually works in everyday, real world applications in our family lives. What I love about God is he uses this guy, the Apostle Paul, and he tells us what it's supposed to look like in relationship. See, the Apostle Paul was someone who persecuted Christians until he encountered a risen Jesus. And God uses him to speak to families, to a church a lot like ours. It was in Philippi. It's an old church. It was a Roman colony, and it was a church made up of a lot of, like SouthPoint. There was diversity in age and gender. There was diversity in background. There were some people who had no faith background. There were some people who'd grown up in pagan or different faiths, and there were people who'd grown up in the Jewish thing. And so God speaks to them, and we find this in Philippians, and we're going to put it right up here on the screen. And it says this, don't be, that's our favorite word, right? Come on, man. No one likes this word. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others better than yourselves. You know, church, if we could grab a hold of this, I know y'all are excited about this. Don't boo me, please, okay? Don't be selfish and be humble. Like, don't be proud. Don't be selfish. If we could just grab a hold of that and think of others as maybe like they're equal and sometimes they're even better than ourselves. Because for the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. And then he goes on to say, do not look out only for your own interest, but take an interest in others too. And we're going to talk about this next week. We're going to talk about boundaries. That absolutely we should look out for our own interests and we should have some self-care. But what I love about what God tells us is that we shouldn't only look out for ourselves, we should actually look out for others. You must have the same attitude that Christ Jesus had. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, Jesus, that's a really good idea. I don't think I want to do that. Like, man, like I kind of want what I want. I kind of like my own ideas. I kind of want my way. Like, really, Jesus, like you're Jesus. You're supposed to do that. Like, I really should do this. And this is why I love Jesus so much. It's because Jesus doesn't just talk a good game. Jesus actually lives it out and shows us what this looks like. Matter of fact, God continues to speak through Paul. And he says this in the next section. Though he was God, he, Jesus, did not think of equality with God as something to hold on or cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine, Jesus gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave and was born as a human being. Like, I don't know about y'all, but if I was God and I was Jesus, I would not be born in a century where there's no electricity and running water. I want some refrigeration, I want sanitation, and I want like a nice country. But Jesus was born into a busted and broken world, an occupied country. And he was wrongly and unjustly convicted, and he died. And here's what's amazing, is that Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane was praying, God, if there's another way, because I don't want this. The disciples said, we'll defend you. He says, don't you understand? I could call 12 legions of angels at an instant. This is not what I want to do. This is not the way I'll do it. But I'm willing to lose so that we could win. I mean, think about what Jesus did. Jesus didn't get his way. Jesus didn't get what he wanted because Jesus cared more about his relationship with you and with me and with us. Because you, because me, because we were meant to be the children of God. Jesus put the relationship, winning at that, ahead of what he wanted and his way. I mean, God could have snapped his fingers. God could win. He could just undo it all and show us how wrong we are. But instead of using his power to get what he wants and get his way, Jesus chooses to love and to serve so that you and I could win. I mean, here's what God is telling us when it comes to relationships, and we're going to put it up here on the screen. Love. This idea that if we really love our spouse, if we really love our children, if we really love our brothers and sisters, we love our aunties and uncles and our in-laws, love chooses to win at the relationship over our wants and our ways. I knew this would be really popular. Everyone's fired up. I can see it. Everyone's out in the audience going, woo, preach, Pastor Matt. Please don't throw anything at me. Like this is what love, I wish someone would have taught me this. My relationship would have been so better. Now, here's the thing. We go, okay, well, how do I actually win at relationships instead of trying to win at what I want and to win it away? And to get there, I want to give us some really practical things because I don't want you to show up and hear someone go, that's great, but then how do I actually live that out? So I want to give us some practical truths today, but I want to warn you, you're not going to like the first two truths. Matter of fact, I asked the first service, could you please not boo and throw things at least in person? Like, as I wrote and talked about these things, I was like, ooh, like no one's going to like these things. But if we want to win at the relationships that matter most, we need to address these truths. So I'm not going to hold you in suspense of any more of how much you're going to want to boo and hate me. But here's the first truth that we need to address. I call it the Burger King problem. We're going to put it up there. The Burger King problem. You remember the phrase of Burger King, you can have it right? If you're online, maybe you just want to type in your way, right? Like Burger King, we love it because you can have it your way. And if we're really honest, part of the problem that we have when we want to win at what we want is, I want it my way. Like, I've never met anybody said, yep, you know what? Like, I don't care. Just do everything your way. I don't want my wants. No, I want it my way, and I want it fast and painless. Got any parents in the house? Any parents online? You ever ask your kid, you just want them to do it the first time? Right? You just want to do it fast. You want them to go, yes, mom or dad, straight away. That used to be the old English term. We want it fast. I mean, wouldn't it be great if everywhere we went, we got it my way and it was fast and painless? You can't even get that at Burger King. Right? And I want what I want. Now think about this. If you're married or if you're a parent or if you have siblings or you have extended family, they have wants. And they have a way, and you have wants in a way, and when they don't match and you have differences, for me to win, someone usually has to lose. True story. This was probably a decade or so. I used to play an online game. And for any of you online gamers, it was COD, for those of you that want to know. And so, I was mediocre at best. I love this online game. If you've ever met me, I'm super hyper competitive. And so, I had the headsets. I had a hard line to my internet. I had my controller hard line into the system so that it would have the fastest response time, right? And so, I would work through the day. We'd have family dinner. And then about right before bed, somewhere around 7 or 8 o'clock, right? I would go down and play. And then when I would lose and not do good, I said, you know what? It can't be me because I'm awesome, right? But if I'm really honest, I was mediocre at best, right? So I go, it can't be me, right? I'm way better than this. So it must be lag. So no lie, I would be an amazing pastor, an amazing follower of Jesus. I would stomp up the stairs and I'd go to my wife and kids. I go, are you guys on the internet? And of course, everyone's on their phone, on their laptop, right? And they're looking at me what's wrong with you? I said, well, I'm playing a game right now. Everyone needs to get off. Just serving like Jesus, oh. And they would look at me and go, I'm serious. Who do you think pays the bills around here? Don't make me go on and change the Wi-Fi password. I'll never give it to you. You want your kids to move fast? Cut off the Wi-Fi and see how fast they move, right? And so and you're probably thinking, man, you're exaggerating. Like you're probably like a good Jesus follower and like a good dude. And I try, I need Jesus just like everyone. So no lie, just it was about a month ago, I was sitting around the dinner table with my children. My oldest daughter's 22. And I mentioned that, you know what, I miss playing this online game. I might go back to playing it. My 22-year-old daughter said, please, Jesus, don't ever do that again. 22 years. I mean, she's 20 years old. And I said, well, I don't know. I really like it. She goes, well, I'm going to move out if you're going to start playing again. And I said, is that all it's going to take? JK, just joking, just kidding, right? Just kidding, right? But can you see that my daughter, a decade year, still had a visceral response because I had the Burger King problem? And I love what God tells us when it comes to disagreements and differences. In James 4:1, it tells us a truth that we don't want to hear, but we need to admit, and it's this. What causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your... I mean, at the end of the day, the reason we fight with our spouses and our kids and our family is if we were just really honest. We want what we want, and we want it our way, and we want it fast and painless. If we're really honest, we're often just selfish. And until we're willing to admit that truth, it's going to be hard to win at the relationships that matter most. Yeah, I told you this would be fun. I told you would just love me at the end of this message, right? We've only got one more really tough truth to go through, so we're going to get through this next truth. But before we get there, I want to tell an honest fact about myself. It's listen, the thing I'm about to share, I've epically failed. I've done all of the wrong things. I am telling you from my failed experience, not as an expert, as someone who has failed and said, please don't do what I do. And so here's truth number 2. We're going to put it up on the screen, and it's this right here. The tools to win are a trap. Right? Because listen, when it comes to getting what we want and getting our way, all of us want to win, right? We all want what we want and we all want a way, so we want to win. And so what do? There's certain tools that we've either grown up with or we figured out work. Some are aggressive. I call it the violence. Some are passive, the silence, right? But we all know the violence, the shouting, the slamming, the shaming. I've done all those. And listen, I know for a fact that you've seen this, right? I bet every single person online or in person has been out at a store or a restaurant or someplace where someone wasn't getting what they... And so they started shouting, slamming, and shaming. And I bet not a single person online or in here went home or looked at their kid and said, man, I hope to grow up to be like them. Because really what they were doing is they were using a tool of violence, of shouting, slamming, and shaming. And the sad thing is I've done all of these with my children and my wife and my family. And some of you are probably going online or in person going, well, I've never done those things. Well, what about distance? Hey, honey, are we okay? Mm-hmm. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's called the cold shoulder. You ever seen little kids? No, I'm sorry, you can't have ice cream. I don't love you anymore. And they walk away from you. And we laugh at the little kids, but how many married couples do that? Withholding. We withhold gratitude when someone that we love does something nice for us, but we're not mad because they didn't give us what we wanted. So we withhold gratitude. Now I'm about to hit home for some of y'all. We withhold affection. We withhold money. We withhold all kinds of things that we're supposed to give to our children or to our spouse or to our siblings or to our extended family. But because we didn't get what we wanted, we're going to withhold sarcasm. It's really just mean shaming. We just wrap it up in humor so it doesn't come across like we're good people. Manipulating behaviors only create defense and damage. Now, I need to say something. If you are online and you have kids or you're about to get another cup of coffee, I need you to listen to something I'm going to say. If you're here in the audience and you've been distracted, if you only hear one thing, you need to hear this. See, when you try to win at what you want and to get your way, people will often forget the words that you use. They'll often forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And do we really want to use violence or silence with a person that we made covenant vows that for better or worse, we would love them the way Christ loved us? Our children that we love and want to set up to succeed and win. Would we ever want to use any of these? With our brothers or sisters that we love, that we grew up with. Is this what we want to use? With our in-laws, our aunties, our uncles, our grandparents. Is this what we're going to do to win? Because they'll never forget how we made them feel when we got what we wanted or we got our way at their expense. Because when you create a winner and a loser, it's almost always a loss. Thank you for not throwing things at me. We're past the toughest two. But here's the third truth, and I'm going to put it up on the screen, and it's this right here. Third one, we're going to seek to understand. The first thing is we need to pause. I don't know about you, but like I'm pretty hyper. I don't know if you've caught that yet. Like I'm a little bit hyper. Someone asked, "You want some coffee?" I go, "No, no one could take me if I had more coffee this morning," right? Like, and so some of us, we're pretty fast. We're pretty like when we want our way or our thing is going away, but sometimes we just need to pause. And when I say we need to pause and we need to pick. And what do you mean when I need to pick? We need to pick what is the win. With your spouse, with your kids, with your extended family, with your sibling, pick the win. Do you want to win at what you want? Do you want to win it your way? Or do you want to win at the relationship? Because before you get into those differences, before you get into disagreement, you need to identify, seek to understand, what is the win that I really want to win at? I want to win at the relationship. I'm so grateful Jesus picked winning at the relationship, that he was willing to lose for me so that I could win. Men and women, you know what it means to be just men and women like Jesus? I mean, sometimes we don't get what we want so that we can love other people, that we can pick and win at the relationship. And by the way, when you seek to understand, doesn't mean you always agree with people. You don't always have to agree. Seeking to understand is really just that, which leads to the second part, which is listen. Now, whenever you tell someone to listen, especially me, like I don't know what that word means. Listen, I thought I was supposed to talk. And then someone told me when I was growing up, they said, "Hey, you know, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth so you could do twice as much listening as talking." That's great advice for someone else. See, I'm a moron. I need Jesus, right? Really listen. You know what I often do when I'm in a disagreement or I'm differences? I don't listen to understand. I listen to argue or to find a hole or find a way to win. I'm not really listening to see and to understand. I'm listening only for the hole in the argument. I'm only listening so that I can frame my view, so that I can be seen, so I can be heard. But I'm so grateful that Jesus showed us what it is to seek to understand. Every time someone came up to Jesus, Jesus always asked a familiar question. What is it that you want? Imagine that with our spouses and our kids and our family. Instead of seeking to be seen and to be heard, we took the Jesus model and we really listened. Not agreeing, we just truly want to see that person. We want to see our spouse, we want to see our kids, we want to see our family. And we want to understand where is it that they're coming from. And then I call it the serve and stand. Serve all the places you can and then stand where you must. Now, I'm going to hurt a bunch of church people's feelings today, both online and in person. I did the first service and no one threw rocks. So I'm hoping it lasts through the second service, right? But if I was really honest, I know I've done this and I've seen so many church people and religious people do this. They use God and Jesus to make stands that they don't have to make so that they don't have to. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? In our marriages, with our kids, with our family, we go, "Oh, well, I can't do that. You know, I'm going to use God as my excuse to why I can't serve you." The reality is there's so many opportunities to actually serve our spouses, to serve our children, to serve our family, and only a few places to stand. Like Jesus is the way to our Heavenly Father. That objectifying human beings for sexuality is wrong. That people matter deeply to the heart of God. I mean, there's really just only a couple things that are worthy of us just going no. And so many reasons that we can serve. But so often in our culture, and especially in Western religion, we use God as a shield so that we don't actually have to serve. We don't actually have to seek to understand. Choose the relationship over our way or our want. I mean, if God was going to sum it all us and give us kind of a way to phrase this up, I believe this is what God is saying to us today through His Word and through the example of Jesus, is we need to redefine the win. It's not about winning what we want our way. It's about winning at the relationship. Moving from me to, maybe you want to type that in the chat. Maybe we could say that one more time. From me to, because when you create a winner and a loser, it's almost always a loss. How can we create understanding and find a win-win? where someone we love doesn't feel like we're winning at their expense. That even if we disagree, they realize that we are for them and we are trying to find a win-win. I want to close with a true story. My wife and I were out the other evening for a walk. It was a beautiful evening, and we live close to the water. We call it seasonal water view. When the leaves on the tree fall from a couple rows back, we can see the water, right? So we were out walking around, right? And we saw this plot of grass where there's some trees growing, and we started reminiscing. Our girls are 20 and 22, and reminiscing when our girls were in elementary school. And I said, love, do you remember we used to bring our girls up there, and we used to play tag in that spot? And she started laughing and giggling, and we were just remembering how much fun it was when our little girls used to chase us around, in the glee in their voice and their eyes when they would catch mom and dad when we played tag. Now, I need to let you in on a little secret. A decade ago now, you probably looking at me and go, man, you're not very jacked, like, you're probably not very strong. I'm weak, don't worry about it, right? And you're probably going, you're not very athletic. It's okay, I'm slow, right? But back in the day, I could run, and I could run like the wind, right? And so there's nobody in my family, not my wife, not my kids, they could not catch me if I wanted to do. Matter of fact, all three of them could probably try to gang up to catch me, and they probably couldn't have. But did you know that when we played tag, the goal in tag with my kid was not it wasn't to win. The goal of playing tag with my family was for us to enjoy each other, not to win. The funnest thing I got to do was let them catch me so that they could have joy. And I wonder how many of us, with our family relationships, are playing a game of tag where we think the goal is to win instead of winning in our family relationships. And what I love about God, what I love about Jesus, and what I love about the Bible is He gives us such a simple solution to love like Jesus did, to seek to win in the relationship, to do what Jesus did, even if I have to lose so that you can win. Because that's what love chooses to do. It's what Jesus did for us. And when we move from being a fan of Jesus to a follower of Jesus, our families begin to change because we don't want to create a winner and a loser anymore. We want everyone in the family to win the same way that anyone that would die for us is for us. Let me pray for us. Hey, God, you're awesome. God, you so easily could have won with a snap of your finger. With just speaking it into existence, God, you could have won and shown us how wrong and how busted humanity is. God, but instead of doing that, Jesus chose to love and to serve. Jesus chose to lose at what He wanted in His way so that we could win, so that we could become the sons and daughters of the Most High, so we could be adopted back into the family of God. God, help us. Help us, because it's hard to win at life when we lose with our families. God, help us to do what Jesus did, to love others the way that we were loved. This is our hope and our prayer in Jesus' name. And all who agreed said, amen.